Oh, or not. Well, everybody, welcome into the fantasy football universe. I am SC Romero at the PPR. So with my co-creator of the fantasy football universe, Jesse Moeller at jmoeller05, and joined with a very special guest, Billy at Home Brevender. I would assume, going off of what's the show called? Can't think of the show. The Boys, right? Is that? Oh no, Home Brever. That's what I thought.
Sort
Kind of,
of.
sort of. But today we're going to talk about some NFL draft predictions and then go into some vets that will lose value coming up on the Fantasy Football Universe. Jesse, Billy, what's going on, guys?
I'm so ready for that NFL draft. Let me tell you what. I don't know about Billy, but woke up this morning and I had to put out the "let's get ready, get out of the bed, bitch." I was like, let's start the day, let's have some fun. So yeah, I am quite hyped. It's gonna be a fun day.
Finally, we're here. I mean, honestly, like I don't think the fantasy community in particular, but draft community as a whole, could last much longer because the takes are getting more insane as we get closer to the draft. So I'm just kind of glad that it's over. I'm done hearing about the most bizarre things happening.
To be honest, I know they don't only do 3 days, but honestly, if NFL wants to make some more money, they can drag it out into 7 days. There's some DJs like us where we would be talking about it. Get into the 7th round, we'd be talking about, oh, this guy's still on the board, he has to go, So very intriguing. Billy, you're in some of my C2C leagues. I definitely trust your knowledge when it comes to some of these guys. So let's just jump right into it. Give us some of your NFL draft predictions.
Okay, well, I'll start with not so hot ones. We'll start with like the medium ones. My first one is I don't think the Vikings need to trade up for JJ McCarthy. I think they should just stand pat and just wait for him to fall to them or let some other team take him. I don't think it's make or break. You need to like spend a lot to go up to get him. I think that is a panic move, and I think that the GM will not have a job in 4 years if they make that mistake. Just saying.
Yeah. No, I like that though. I mean, I know me and Jesse have been back and forth on that too. And with the sense of like you have 2 first-round picks, and it's probably gonna cost you both of them to move up. Like, why? You can hold off, maybe get Penix or Knicks. I don't see much of a huge tier break between those guys there, but or just get someone next year. Wait for Ewers, wait for Beck if you need to. So I get it, but I think McCarthy is getting that Will Levis type of hype where people are like, oh, he's top quarterback, and then we're gonna see him slide down to not the end of the first, that early second round pick.
Yeah, it's spicy. I mean, one of our co-hosts, Aaron, loves JJ McCarthy, so he's been talking about him QB1 in the process.
So what can you explain? Maybe just he's not here to defend himself, but can you kind of give some of his like reasoning behind him, like behind liking him as much?
Yeah, like from his point of view, I'd say he's sound. He can kind of do everything to put you in a pro style offense from day one. He can make all of the throws. He was dealing with very limited weapons. Like I know people like Roman Wilson, but he's not a top, like maybe a 2-round pick. Like outside of him, it was very limited offense. And he just basically did enough. And I want to say like game manager, but in a very good way, kind of in like the Jared Goff type of game manager where he did everything he needed to do to win. And they put them in the position every time. And sometimes it would be, game-winning drives, he would do that, or it would be the first half, and they would just be rolling. They'd be so dominant, he wouldn't make mistakes. So I think he's a good NFL quarterback. I do worry about the ceiling case. Like when people say take him over Drake May, I'm like, why are we doing this, right? Because I'm very much a Drake May guy, but like I get it. I get the flip side where if you look at his stats and his efficiency numbers, like there's a lot that you could parse through, and it's a small data set. But like if you take it kind of, I know the fantasy points guys have him at QB1 for that reason because of the stuff he did in that offense. So like I'm not fully on board with this take, but I at least understand the rationale and the reasoning behind it. Where I'm like, you know what, you could at least talk me into it. Where, like, we talk about Penix and Knicks, and I'm like, dude, those guys are old and they have some serious red flags in their profile. So like, if I'm having to parse between getting those guys at 11, I would much rather just trade up and go get whatever guy it is. And I know it's going to cost them a lot, but I'd much rather make that bet because we did the mock more this morning, and it was basically, all right, if we don't get the quarterback, who are you taking? We took Quinyon Mitchell and like Byron Murphy at 11 and 23, right? And I'm like, dude, that sets your team up, but you still need a quarterback. So Yeah, it's a tough one, man. It's they feel like they're kind of caught in the middle of two worlds where they needed to compete and they don't have it.
So my problem though is JJ McCarthy going to win you anything next year? No. Is he going to win you anything the year after that? Probably not. Like you're just kicking the can down the road, hoping that eventually you get this team set up to where he's going to win. Michigan was built on a very strong defense and a really strong running game. And there's a reason Blake Corum is not going to go in the first or second round of this draft. He may go in the second. That would be a reach to me, but he might. And there's a reason that Michigan was winning is actually not even going to get drafted very high. I don't see why the quarterback is the thing that people watch from that Michigan team, parsing through the somewhat good plays that he made in some occasions. And that is the thing you're taking from this team, thinking that is the thing that we're going to go grab from this. It's kind of like watching the Alabama teams from the early aughts when it was Derrick Henry, TJ Yeldon, all those guys were running up and down the field. Nobody was going to take A.J. McCarron just because he was the quarterback winning all those football games. I kind of view it similar to that, other than J.J. McCarthy is younger than he was at this time. But still, I don't know. It's still way too raw for me to take in the top 5 and feel good about it.
Yeah, I think McCarthy, it's the unknown that people get attracted to, right? You don't know. He hasn't had to throw very much. He was in a very good offense where it was very limited on his throwing. So he, like Jesse was saying, his data is based on a very small number. So it looks good, but then you look at it compared to other ones, it's drastically less than what it is because of what he had to do. So I think there's an uncertainty or some hope that maybe if he does have to throw it out, he could go out there and do it because his arm isn't as used, if you will, as some of the other quarterbacks as well. But I agree. I don't think they need to reach. I've had Minnesota staying put at forever, that they can just keep him there. Now Drake May is something different. I think if Drake May falls to maybe 4 or something like that, they can possibly trade up to. I don't know if New England trades back to 11. I think that's too far for them. So maybe 6. I know Giants have been talking about it, but I think if he drops to 4 to Arizona, I think can hop on that and take, like, they can get Odunze at 11 potentially, but then they also get another second round pick or another first round pick to get Brian Thomas or maybe Worthy or something like that. So
yeah, to your point, I'd say the 2 quarterbacks in the top 4, there's like drastic differences. You had Jaden Daniels and JJ McCarthy in very good situations for them to succeed. Caleb Williams and Drake May is like the opposite. They were single-handedly carrying those rosters, right? So it's weird we don't have quarterback prospects that are that highly touted in those bad situations. I know it's weird to say this about USC, but like they just were not that good last year. Like I hate to break that to USC fans. So it's really weird to parse these quarterbacks apart and be like, okay, yeah, these are these 2 that for this reason than the other 2. It's something I personally have struggled with this entire process. Like, man, it's definitely difficult.
No, this quarterback class is bananas. Jaden Daniels threw a touchdown to Brandon Ayuk. That actually happened in college. Yeah. We have that on one hand. Right. We have that on one hand, and then we have JJ McCarthy on another. So yeah, it's going to be weird tonight. I really do feel that way.
So give us another one of your takes.
I think that there's not going to be a defensive player taken in the top 10. Okay. I think we're going 11 or later for that. And the record right now is number 8, which was in 2021. I know a lot of people have said that. I think this is going to break that record by a couple of picks. I don't think any defensive player is going to go. And I think that should speak to how good this offensive class is and not necessarily how bad these defenders are.
Do you think so? With that, I mean, you don't think Atlanta goes? You think they go like O-line, or
I think they trade out?
Trade out.
I think they're going to trade out.
That's a value pick too. For someone, if a team drops and you have a team, trade up. You could have someone like Denver try to trade up and get JJ. Because like, oh, he's dropping. Maybe we need to make that move and jump back 4 spots there. So that'll be a very interesting one too. And this is the type of year. I think the first 4 or 5 picks are sold and locked. Like maybe New England. I know there's smoke right now that New England wants to trade back or whatever, and Cardinals are airing it. But I feel like your asking price may be too high for a 3rd or 4th, pick overall. So when you get to that 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, even, that's that area where it's like if those guys that you're looking at have not gone, you're gonna see a lot of teams try to jump into that area to try to get it. So I like that.
Yeah, if there is one team that does take a defensive position player, do you think it's going to be the Falcons in the top 10, or is there another team that
I do? Yeah, they're probably. I mean, I've kind of put some money on them taking Byron Murphy. Actually, I think they should go D-line personally. But I mean, between the edge rushers or Byron Murphy. They need to shore up that defense. I don't think the Falcons can afford to take another offensive player again for the third year in a row to try to make this offense work. They need to eventually start working on the defense a little bit. And I think defensive-minded head coach coming in from the Rams, I think this is the year that they finally fix that.
And getting Kirk Cousins, you don't need to get another wide receiver. Like, he can air it out regardless of who's there, right? So that's if there was someone else, maybe Ritter, then you're like, all right, maybe we need to get another, wide receiver there. But yeah, if it's Cousins there, I agree. I think they can go there. And the O-line class is pretty deep too. You can go O-line later as well, just to make sure you're protecting Cousins there too. So I like that one.
For sure. Okay, I got two more. One's really hot and the one's kind of mild. And I think Khalil Herbert is going to get traded during this draft. It's going to be a later round pick, but I think that a team is going to move to get him. And I think that it may mess up a running back room. I could not tell you which one yet. I've got one that we're going to get to when we get to the other part of this podcast that I think is prime for that. But I think a team's going to trade for Khalil Herbert. I think he's going to move on draft day, either tomorrow or Saturday.
Do you think that Khalil Herbert being traded, is that meaning Roschon season, or is it just that DeAndre Swift there? Is it Swift? It is Swift, yeah.
Yeah, Swift and Roschon, and I think they'll add another one in this draft. I mean, it'll be a late round guy, but I think they'll have another one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like his salary this year is like a little over $1 million in the cap hit. So he's dirt cheap. And to your point, he's been one of the most efficient runners in the NFL in his time there. Right. So I think a team could take a shot on him, like send a 4th or 5th round pick. They get him for this year, and they know they build with that. And you get a starting running back or starting caliber running back. I don't think he's the most complete back.
He should at least get a chance. I mean, like the Raiders, like, what are you guys doing? Come on, just get him in here. Let's bring him to Vegas.
I think he would be a better runner than Zamir White for sure.
Here's this is gonna block your face out here for a sec, Billy. But you call people who spent as long as in college as Daniels or Penix doctors. Hey, maybe they got their doctor too. That's if football doesn't work out, you can go out and get that degree too. So
it's crazy that back, even like 10 years ago, if a quarterback was there for 4 years or 5 years, even, we wouldn't really think much of it. But now it's like, I think, it was Brandon Weeden. He's the one that ruined this for everyone. He was 28 years old when he came out, and now everybody assumes if you're in college for a long time, you're automatically Brandon Weeden, even though you're not the same age as he was. I think he ruined it for everyone.
Well, then top it off too. I've talked about this with a couple of people. It was the COVID year, right? The COVID kind of pushed people back a little bit. So you have that year, and we're kind of faltering out of that. I think we'll have maybe one more year of some of those older guys, and then we'll get back on track with just younger guys coming out and stuff like that, because they're not having that year of eligibility that they can use there as well. So, but yeah, I agree. Brandon Weeden, man. Old guy.
Real. It's just the strangest first round pick of all time. Like, I still don't get it to this day.
It was Cleveland, wasn't it?
Yep. Of course it was Cleveland.
Yeah. So
everything's Cleveland. It's always Cleveland. Johnny Manziel. I mean, every weird pick, it's them.
I don't get it, but when you say it's Cleveland, I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad teams make bad decisions consistently. Yeah.
All right, my last hot take, and this has been the spiciest one that I've told a lot of people, and they don't agree with me. I think Malik Nabers is going to be a bust. Not because of Malik Nabers. If you see the teams that are mocked to take him, there's the Chargers, who are going to want to be a run-first team. I'm sorry. They can try to make Justin Herbert a passing quarterback, but Harbaugh doesn't want that. He wants to be a power run team with good defense, just like he was at Michigan. He's getting mocked to potentially the Tennessee Titans. That's an absolute disaster. I mean, there's 3 guys there already, and then you got, potentially Will Levis throwing the football. I just like everybody he's been mocked to. I don't really love even if it's the Giants per se, that same kind of situation where you got Daniel Jones there, and until you make a quarterback change, I don't really trust that he's going to be fantasy relevant. I just don't love any of the situations that he could end up with. And so I think he's going to end up being for sure a fantasy bust, but I mean, hopefully for him, not a complete bust in the NFL, but this year doesn't look good based on where the teams he's being mocked to are.
So you would agree he's a top 10 pick, though?
Yes. I like him. It's not him, not his fault. It's where he's going to land that I don't like.
But so that's going into my question. So out of the top 10, Bears, Washington, New England, Arizona, Chargers, Giants, Titans, Falcons, Bears, Jets. Which team to use? It's that. I mean, I could agree with that. I'm not that mad about that based on landing spot. Well, which team out of those top 10 that makes him not necessarily a bust?
It has to be the Bears. I mean, that's what it is. They need a third wide receiver there. I think even with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore there, they still need a third guy. And they need to be somebody set up for the future. I personally think it's going to be Rome. So I don't think that's why I don't think he's going to be a bust. But Malik Neighbors, I think he's going to end up with the Giants. And who's excited about that? I mean, I don't like Daniel Jones. Is anybody else? I don't know.
Hey, I like him. He's on my fantasy team, so I gotta like him.
I don't even think the Giants like him anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
No,
yeah, that's interesting though. I feel in our mock, what did Malik Neighbors fall to? Wasn't it close to the Bears?
Yeah, he went right in that range. I think it was the Bears or the Jets, one of the two, because we had Rome fall back, we had Bowers fall because we put a couple of offensive tackles up in the top 10. Like Latham went 5, I think, or 7.
Yeah.
So it kind of forced those guys down. So yeah, like I mean. The situation is interesting for him. I think if you're asking him to play the X position, that's the one he's not like most equipped to do. Like he could learn it, but yeah, like he's kind of a guy that's going to be in the slot and do a lot of things, move all around the field. So the Giants have like 8 of those guys already on the team. So you just be replacing one of those guys with another. So yeah, he went 106.
So Giants,
Giants. Like the Giants seem like a very likely, and I mean they definitely need him. It's just,
but there is also to your point on Neighbors. There's been some mocks where I see Odunze go over him. So it is possible that Odunze goes to one of those spots and we're in the same situation and the Neighbors falls out to the Bears too. So, but I agree, those are kind of horrendous spots right now. I wouldn't say the Titans as much if they didn't get Calvin Ridley, but because they got Ridley now and then Hopkins and then you have Burks, it's like, man, that's just it's crowded rooms and not, his talent's great, but when you go into the crowded room in the pros, it's very hard, especially with some vets like that. It's going to be very hard to get that playing time out the gate and try it. So, bust at least in the first couple of years for sure. But then, hey, buy low on him because the talent's there. And if you can afford it, that's great.
If he goes to the Titans, I'm going to be very, very upset tonight because they're not accepting defeat on Treylon Burks yet. So, like, he's even going to have to get over that to get a spot onto the field. So, I would hate that so much if he ended up there. So please say we're not talking Titans next week.
For sure.
They better take a tackle and be furious if they don't take a tackle.
Hopefully.
What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing?
I actually like that take though, and I don't think it's as high. I mean, I guess it's high in the sense that people are like, oh, he can't bust. But I mean, you think about situations, it's very possible. So
he's the one primed to take the worst spot on a team where they do need a wide receiver, maybe, but like he's not exactly going to be like even the Chargers. I know it's exciting if he goes there and everybody's going to be like, oh my God, he's going to be, lighten it up right away. But like, I don't think John Harbaugh is going to want to do that. So I don't know. I just don't think so.
Do you think, because I know the fantasy community has flip-flopped on Neighbors and Harrison as the 1 and 2 there. If it's flip-flop and Neighbors goes to the Cardinals and Marvin Harrison goes to that same spot, is it the same scenario too?
Now that's interesting. I don't know. I haven't thought about that because Marvin Harrison, I personally just have Marvin Harrison up here and then Neighbors and Odunze on the level 2 tier, which isn't bad. Like those are really good players still, but I don't know. I kind of think he would be able to carve out his own way, but I don't know. I just think he could play wherever, and I'm not sure about Neighbors.
That's fair. So yeah, so I mean, what we want to do here is, draft day. It's you mentioned, values dropping and like the tight ends, not losing on Burks yet. But going into our next segment here, some veterans that will lose some value post draft. It doesn't necessarily need to be the first round. Just who are some vets that catch your eye that can potentially lose some value come Sunday when the draft is over.
If you're talking to me, my first one is Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon is headed for a decline. I think he is good that he ended up there in Houston, and that is going to be potentially good at the beginning of the season. But Houston has a running back to add, and I think they're going to go after one of the top guys. Maybe not Brooks. I don't think they're going to go that high. Corum, I think, is destined to go to the Chargers. But maybe like a Benson, a Jalen Wright, somebody like that, where if they added him onto the team, I would be like, that's a sneaky potential first-round like rookie pick to me because the Houston Texans could really afford to add a running back to that room. And I'm not scared of Mixon, but Mixon should be scared of whoever they add.
That's fair. And I know Jesse had to leave. He had there he goes, coming back in. Hold on, sorry about that. No, that's great. I love that idea. Mixon. I think that's a good landing spot too for a running back because we know Damian Pierce, didn't do well last year after having a pretty good rookie season his first year. But I do think they are in the market for a running back, and you may say them take one in that third round, potentially. But also round 4, I believe that's where Damian Pierce went as well. So you potentially take them there, and that just pushes Damian down even further. Mixon obviously is the one there, but whoever they get, I believe, will be a more versatile back than what Damian Pierce is. So I like that idea. And Mixon, I mean, I think that's you. To me, it'd be you want to cuff the rookie running back with Mixon rather than have Damian Pierce as the cuff.
Right.
Like, that makes a ton of sense, right? Because we saw Pierce just doesn't fit the scheme there. Like they changed the situation in offense, and immediately he just struggled out the gate. So yeah, like Pierce, they need to trade Pierce. Like I think that's the guy that needs to get traded if he wants success in the NFL because he does not click the type of offense they're running. So yeah, they could draft someone, and then Pierce is gone, and then it's those two guys like battling it out, and like Mixon been the volume hog his entire career. Maybe like it cuts into that volume. And to your point, yeah, 100%.
I feel like
Pierce on special teams for some snaps last season, so like that was like, whoa, what's going on here?
And I feel like the OC came out and said something like he just doesn't fit our scheme. Mm-hmm. Like during the season, he just said, their interview or something like he just doesn't fit our scheme, and it's like, all right, bro, like we don't want to hear that, but all right, what I mean, like tell that to him. Don't tell the media. Like let us still have hope. But I mean, he was being real. So there you go. Who else do you think, Billy?
Kind of the top level, we kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I think DJ Moore. I think once they add Rome Odunze in there, or potentially Malik Neighbors, whichever one, I think the rookie to rookie connection might eat into a little bit of that. If Caleb Williams is more of a spread around the ball kind of guy, at least he was at USC. He's not really going to be locked into one guy as much as like Fields to DJ Moore felt like a one-to-one connection. There's nobody else out here where I think Caleb Williams is going to spread the ball around more. And I think that's going to eat into what I think people think DJ Moore is going to be this season, where I think Rome Odunze could eat into that quite a bit, getting some of the starts there.
Yeah, that's fair. And do you think that, Keenan Allen's there too? So, I mean, he may probably be the one that hurts even more, where his value just plummets, arguably top 10 year in, year out when it comes to receivers, and then his value just plummets there.
Or, I mean, it could be the Texans. I mean, we just saw them support 2 good wide receivers last season, and they wanted to have a third, but there was nobody really there. It could easily be something like that.
Yeah. Like it's just the more crowded the room is, it was harder to earn targets. If you have good players, like if you don't have good players, different situation. But you add another like a top 10 wide receiver to any of these rooms, it's going to affect the guys. Obviously, the best guy, which is maybe CJ Moore, it might be Keenan Allen, depending on how they use him in the scheme. But yeah, like it's going to consolidate on those guys, but it just cuts off the ceiling, I guess is the best way I would phrase it.
I assume DJ Moore's ceiling is, I mean, I've seen him as far as like people dynasty like 6, maybe 7 wide receiver. And if they draft Odunze, I don't know. Top 10 seems like a stretch just based on how the ball's going to get distributed out.
Yeah. That is his best career season. Yeah.
Pull this one up just to, you don't trade for Mixon and extend him just to draft someone else and supplant him. I don't think the statement was necessary to supplant him. I think it's just more so they are going to address the running back room, and that's just going to make it even more crowded behind Mixon, but also more opportunity for another running back to take that next step. And right now, I don't see Damian Pierce as a threat to Mixon, where I could see potentially a Jalen Wright or someone said like that, to be a threat to him as well. So I think that's where it comes at.
Well, even speaking to that comment, like they traded for Mixon. Mixon was about to get cut. I mean, they Bengals were like, oh, we can get something for him. Okay, let's toss him down to Houston. And then they extended him because they're not paying anybody right now. CJ Stroud is a rookie. Tank Dell is a rookie. They're not paying a running back. They just had to. I don't even think they've extended Nico yet. So they're not really paying anybody. So why not just go throw some money at Mixon to extend him? You might as well. Yeah. I still think that doesn't mean anything as far as like a running back coming in there as a rookie and not having a chance to be, I don't know. I'm not saying 50-50, but like 60-40, 70-30, something like that. Still valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're getting 70% in any offense, like I'll take those running backs because that's super rare. There's like maybe 5 guys in the NFL that get that. It's like and that's Mixon. Like that's what he's been living on this entire career. He's always got the volume and just fallen a little short of what his expected like points per game is off of volume. So yeah, like if you cut into his volume, it hurts him more than it does the super talented like Jonathan Taylor or those type of backs, right? It's because it's strictly volume chasing Mixon.
Well, we saw Chase Brown start to chunk away at Mixon's workload in Cincinnati anyway. So, and that's Chase Brown. No hate to Chase Brown. He's a good running back, but come on, like, he's chunking away.
And that goes on to show Mixon. He had a great year last year, but also just kind of dialing down. I mean, you're getting into that age of the running back at at a NFL level where you're starting to hit that plateau, if you will, where it's just like it's not necessarily doing anything great or better, but you're not necessarily doing anything worse. But now you're just a fringe running back where it's like you just have to be in that right situation. So I get it there. I'm curious. You mentioned Khalil Herbert earlier, and that you think him being traded somewhere could possibly affect a running back elsewhere. Who was that to?
Well, I mean, I was thinking potentially Houston. I think potentially Arizona is a place that could afford to use a backup running back like that. They might just take one in the draft as well. That's the other part of this. Like somebody could just take one, or the Raiders. I think they have a perfectly good chance to take Khalil Herbert and at least give him a chance to start there. I know Zamir White's been, a fan of the dynasty community for quite some time, but I think there's a chance that you could get Khalil Herbert in there and he can make some noise.
And you mentioned right now, I'm just trying to blank on who you were just saying there on the running back. Oh, James Conner. I think that's someone that year in, year out, we talk about, this is the time they draft. So that's going to be a team to watch, because Keontae Ingram, when he went there, I was excited. I was like, oh, snap, Connor's getting old. Connor continued to produce, though. Well, this year, too, I mean, I think it's potential that they get a running back in the third or fourth round, possibly. If Benson's there in the third round, why not take him? If Benson's there in the third round and the Cardinals take him, I'm smashing bench whenever I can. I think it'll be a great fit for him. And that's someone I think can surplant Connor eventually as well. So that's a team I'm really looking at. Raiders too. Zamir White, people love him. He had a great end of the year. The last 4 games he was doing very well. They brought in Alexander Mattison. We saw what Mattison did with the Vikings, so you're not really worried about that. So that's another team that could potentially get a running back there. Dallas. What is Dallas gonna do? Brooks is the one that's favorite there, and people are gonna jump on Brooks. But let's not forget he tore his ACL as well. Back end of the season too. It wasn't early on, so he's still gonna be going through some recovery there. So I think people need to watch out on that and don't necessarily draft him as high, potentially, just because he goes there, because you're probably still gonna wait a little bit before you see any kind of boom from him if we ever do. As well,
for sure.
Is there any veteran quarterbacks do you think like later guys can jump in and possibly hurt them?
I mean, I do think Penix could go somewhere that might disrupt something, like especially if it goes to the Raiders. I know a lot of people are thinking Gardner Minshew, but Gardner Minshew was a 500 quarterback. I don't think he's above, going against competition with somebody added in. I am very interested to see where Spencer Rattler goes. I do think wherever he goes, he should sit for a year. But I think it should be the Jets, personally. I think that's who he should go and try, sit behind for them. But I don't think he's any threat to Aaron. So I don't know as far as that one goes. I don't know who quarterback wise.
That's fair. I like Rattler to the Jets. I think that's a fair point to have him sit, and sit behind. They need to get a quarterback, whether it be Rattler or maybe Michael Pratt. Could also go potentially. I don't know if you want to throw in Milton there if you're crazy about it. But I don't really get excited about that as much. And then I think the Falcons too with Kirk. You have some guys that could sit, and if Kirk doesn't pan out, I know he got paid and they did that. Kirk's just a magician when it comes to getting paid, right? But if they go and get maybe Bo Nix in the second, or if they get Rattler later, I really love that fit because it kind of gives them an out if Kirk doesn't recover well from that ACL injury. So. Are you worried about like anyone like say Diggs if they end up getting another wide receiver, or maybe Adams if they get someone there?
The only other wide receiver I'm nervous for, and this is kind of a stretch. I know a lot of people are probably going to roll their eyes, but I think it's Puka Nacua. I do think that the fact that the Rams have a first round pick for the first time in a long time. Sean McVay, like I could just see the sparkle in his eye of like, man, we could get like Xavier Worthy on this team, or man, we could get like, one of these receivers on this team. That sounds interesting. I know a lot of people are projecting them to take a defensive player, which they probably should, but at the same time, I mean, I just feel like Sean McVay's sitting there with a twinkle in his eye of like, man, we could add some really big piece to this team right now. So if they were to do that, that is completely contingent on them taking somebody that would be going very early in the draft. But I do think there's a chance that people that have sold their farm for Puka Nacua might end up being like, dang, I wish that wouldn't have happened after tonight.
He was one of my fallers simply because he finished so high last year, and there were so many uncertainties with other great wide receivers that I think he drops out. Being a top 4, I think he was 5, if not 4, last year.
Yeah.
So I think there's potential he drops out. Not Chase Brown. Jamar Chase didn't have Joe Burrow most of the season. He had Browning. Then you have someone like AJ Brown that did pretty well, but then also has Devontae Smith there as well. So you can have both of them jump up. So Puka's someone that he's been a sell for me this offseason. Not that I think they get Worthy in the first, but they can definitely add to it. And then that's another quarterback too. If they go after Rattler or Pratt, I'm all over them too. I think that's fantastic for them. Get to learn that system, sit behind Stafford. Stafford's heading that way where he's on the end. He's an older guy. He's already won a Super Bowl. He probably hangs it up. If not after this year, maybe after the next season, So I think you get that quarterback too, because I don't necessarily see them going after someone next season either. So I would love that.
They could be potential Bo Nix people. I mean, I know a lot of people have been saying that like he would fit with the Vikings, how they run their system. But I mean, the Vikings learn their system from the Rams, so the Rams adding Bo Nix to that wouldn't be off the table either. And he could sit behind Stafford for a year and learn. I wouldn't hate that.
For sure. I love that. Do you have any other veterans, maybe any IDP or anything they think may lose some value?
I didn't have any others written down. I could probably guess some. I would have to think about it for a minute, though.
It's all good.
So it's all good. I think those were some great picks there.
That's all I had written down. But as far as fallers go.
No, that's perfectly fine. I mean, I think those were all some great picks. Definitely something to watch out for. And the thing is, night one, it's not the end, right? We still have till Saturday to get through all 7 rounds. So night one, people are going to jump and, be crazy about certain picks and all that. Fantastic. But I think the real value comes into these second and third rounds, day 2, even the day 3s, because those are the guys that if teams are taking shots on them or teams trade up for a guy, watch out for them because they have some interest. They're just not taking that 5th year or that 5th year option on them, right? So they still want to grow on them and learn on them. So those next 2 days, your Friday and Saturdays, become big because those are some guys that, they could be a Puka Nacua. They could be someone that comes in and jumps into a spot, the right spot, right opportunity, and takes it. Tom Brady went in the 6th round, right? Not saying there's a Tom Brady in this draft, but you never know if there is a guy that gets hurt and then that quarterback comes in and doesn't give the opportunity back, right? So always, look at those guys, look at the opportunities that they're in, and don't be upset if they are like, oh, they didn't get drafted there, so here we go, and we gotta wait or whatever. So
a lot can change for sure.
A lot can change. How do you think a lot? Just a random question. Do you think a lot of trades happen in the first round? I think the over under.
I do. I think we're going to see 6. I do think 6. That. I think it is pretty telling that we have yet to get a trade in the first round already. Like we don't have anybody that's trading up with the Cardinals, or we don't have anybody trading up with New England or anything. I think that means that there is a lot of people waiting to see exactly what happens. At the beginning. I think a lot of people are going to see what happens from right off the jump, and we're going to go from there. And I think it's going to be crazy.
Agreed, man. Agreed. I think this is going to be a fun draft. There's a lot of quarterbacks in, a lot of wide receiver classes deep. I think there's going to be a lot of moving around. And this is where, people, what's the guy in draft day? I can't think of his name right now.
Sonny or whatever.
Yeah, Sonny. Yeah. Either we're gonna see someone give away 3 seconds and move up to get their guy. We'll see.
That movie is the craziest thing to watch as like a football fan. Of just like, what in the world? Who would do this? But
it's Madden franchise.
Exactly.
Billy, I appreciate you coming on to the FFU with us. Tell everyone where they can find your work.
Follow me on Twitter at Ombre Vendor. Follow at IDP Plus. We do a podcast every week called Offensive Points. We mainly talk about offense, but we do talk about IDP too. We are on an IDP channel. And then we did make a rookie guide as well, which was a lot of fun. You can check that out on our website or whatever. And come join us every Wednesday. It's a lot of fun.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate y'all for SC for myself, I should say. Jesse, Jeremy, and Aaron. This is the Fantasy Football Universe. Like, comment, subscribe. We're doing things all day today and tomorrow. We're doing live things and some giveaways in the night draft. That's tonight and tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Billy, much appreciated, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.